Hello, everyone. It's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. When I did the video this morning, I expected a certain amount of, I have to be honest, I expected people to focus on the video and not me. I thought the video was more important. I honestly did. I thought what I was saying was very interesting. Look, guys, I appreciate the concern. If I'm being honest, I hate the fact that it was given. That has everything to do with me and it has nothing to do with you. That's how I am. I hated being at hospitals again. I hated it. Hated it worse when people came over to visit. But again, that's everything of me, nothing of anybody else. That being said, thank you. I appreciate it. Let's talk healthcare. It seems appropriate, seeing as I just got out the hospital. It was the ER visit, and seeing as this conversation in this country is on Trumpcare. Obamacare has failed, and we're on Trumpcare. Or Obamacare is supposedly failing, according to Donald Trump on Twitter. It's failing. According to me, it was failing. And so the goal is to change it and replace it with something else that's worse. That's the goal. I am apoplectic at this. Democrats, at the American public, and people in general, to some degree at society at large, that the conversation that we're willing to have is between the extremes of right-wing healthcare plan and Trumpcare, a kleptocrat plan. That's what we're talking about. I'm furious with Democrats. Yes, I am immensely furious with Democrats. You have no idea. It takes everything in me not to go on a tear on that. And that's not necessarily the way I want to talk about this. I have an interesting perspective on this, because for the most part, I've had to deal with the healthcare system for 20-something odd years. The healthcare system in this country sucks. It's a fucking disaster. It's embarrassing. Shiny city or the hill my ass. Anybody that's had to deal with the medical system in this country would know it. It's insane. The only thing that allows this particular system to persist itself is people get used to the things to which they do. That's the only reason. If any of these people went anywhere else around the world and had to get medical service, they would be aghast at what's called healthcare in America. That's the point I'm trying to make. You have a situation where somebody can go to a hospital, get put into the hospital, they take your insurance and information and everything else, because that's really the important thing. And as you're sitting into your room, a doctor will come in. You don't know this guy, some random asshole. He puts a thing on you. He takes your temperature. He takes your blood pressure. And he walks out. And you get a bill from that random guy. Each and every person who's in that particular hospital is considered a money source. And the vultures and the leeches come out trying to get a part of that money source. Yes, to some degree the person matters, because you don't want that person to die. You want that person as a client, not a corpse. So yes, the person matters. But do you really want a situation where cash is the thing that makes the determination on whether your most precious asset gets the attention it deserves or needs? I am going to be taking questions, comments, all those things. Feel free. Give me your feelings about the healthcare system. We can discuss it. This is the point I'm going to make. What matters to you? What matters to you? I mean, ultimately, if you're going to tell me that this is some kind of evolved society, but yes, I would like cash to be the determining factor on whether people get healthcare in the country. You are going to get rid of healthcare for millions of people with Trumpcare, millions of people. Obamacare already did not provide healthcare for millions of people. It was not universal healthcare. That is not what it was at all. It was far from universal healthcare. What do you value? That's what it boils down to. What do you value? And if you say you value the human element, particularly when you're talking about the human element, you're dealing with something that deals with the human body. Is cash really the thing that you want, determining the level of care you get? It just seems kind of gross to me. It seems kind of gross. You have one answer for healthcare. You have one answer for healthcare. Single payer. Everybody's covered. You're born into this country. You're born into a healthcare system. I would even go so far as to say it's not even single payer. Go beyond single payer. No, single payer. I'm going too far. Single payer. Single payer. I can't take that stuff of saying single payer is not enough. Single payer is not enough. No, single payer. You're born into this country. You have healthcare. We pay 4 times as much as anywhere else around the globe. Think about that. We pay far more for healthcare, and it doesn't even service everybody. Single payer. Now, if Trumpians want to defend Trumpcare, have at it. I have my phone. We can talk. We can talk. I am curious on your opinion on this. I mean, and look, my bias is known. Humanism. I put my bias in humanity. Ultimately, the most precious thing that you have on this planet that we're aware of is consciousness. That consciousness is leached and dropped inside of a human being. Those things are unique. Those things have value. That's where I place my value. Those are the things that I find value in. Now, this imaginary thing of profit and cash, that's been used to pretty much enslave the human race. Man being subordinated by his own creation. And there's no more evidence of that. You're going to the hospital, and the thing that's going to determine the level of care that you get, particularly afterwards, is how much cash you have in your pocket. It gets worse than that. People who are terrified of getting a bill, and so they just don't go. Those people die. A lot of those people die. You have others who stay away from healthcare because, again, they can't afford it. You have others who make determination between medicine. Half the country is in poverty. What do you do when you're in poverty and you have healthcare issues? I'm just saying, man, it's if the point of healthcare is healthcare, certainly you realize none of these plans work. I'll say it this way, and I'll take questions. Your political apparatus is broken. Your political apparatus is broken. The thing that makes the determination on the laws that are passed in our country, the thing that makes that choice is broken. There's no way. It is impossible. It is absolutely impossible that anybody with 2 brain cells rub together would say, hey, we have an issue with healthcare. I have an idea. Let the Republican Party make the determination on what it means for healthcare. And we're going to provide this mutilated thing before the American public. And it's going to do less than what the previous mutilated thing did for public. That's what you're telling me. Are you honestly telling me that the answer to healthcare is one of these 2 things that these 2 parties put up? Is that what you're honestly telling me? And do you honestly believe that Trumpcare, a mutilated version of Obamacare, is going to be the answer? I don't think it's going to be the answer. Put it this way, from an engineer's perspective on how to solve an issue, these 2 parties are ridiculous. These 2 parties are ridiculous. These are the plans that they come up with, and you have to ask yourself, if the point of healthcare is healthcare, why are they doing plans that seem to make healthcare more difficult? Why? Obama protected the drug care companies, meaning Medicare, the United States government couldn't necessarily negotiate for drug costs. Well, that's a big fucking deal. They can charge us anything they want. Hey, that's a cost. That's an extra cost. Those guys are going to try to make profit. Those guys are going to make profit by raising prices on drug costs. The United States, thanks Obama, can't negotiate with drug companies. He's protected the drug companies. He's locked you into insurance companies, literally having the American public buying something from a private enterprise by law. By law. Think about that. Those guys are going to get 30% profit off the deal. It's a profit-making enterprise. Yes, they're taking it out of your hide. When you go to the hospitals, hey, you already got insurance. This is great. Get this other shit that you don't need. Look, if you're going to do healthcare, do healthcare. I guess that's my point. Make sure everybody is covered. You can do that. You have the resources to do that. You make a choice. What do you value? You're spending almost $1 trillion. on military? And are you telling me we're having this conversation about whether or not we can provide healthcare for everybody? This conversation is fucking insane. That's all I'm saying. The idea that Trumpcare and Obamacare are the two answers for this is maddening. It's maddening. It's maddening. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Hey guys. He say, I love this one. He say he felt ashamed for a bit. I love that. I love that. Kilo Hoyle, stop balancing budgets on the backs of people. Stop fueling the military industrial complex and prison complex. Yeah, stop. Stop. What do you value? What do you value? The question is not moot. It's an important question, right? If we're having a conversation, and I made this point to my mom today, I was like, it's one thing for you to say, I care about people. Fair enough. But how do you defend that position? How do you defend that position? And for progressives, it sounds weird to us. Like, what do you mean? How do you defend that position? How do you defend that position? Saying I care about something. Who gives a shit what you care about? I don't care. My feelings for that particular flower, I don't have feelings for that flower. So how do you defend that position when you're talking to somebody else who doesn't necessarily hold those values? What do you value? Where do you put your stake in the ground? I put my stake in the ground in humanity. And then I say, okay, what are the things that are adversely affecting humanity? Not having healthcare is one of those things. Not having healthcare is one of those things. I care more about people than profits. Any day of the week and twice on Sundays, I give two shits about your profits. I care about that person. That person is infinitely more important. Your profit is not real. It is a tool of control and enslavement. That's all it is. That person is a real thing. That person has a huge amount of potential that can be released if society allowed it to be released. Meaning, if that person had his needs met, that person could be fucking amazing. Each person is like that, believe it or not. How many people do you have around the globe? Think of all that potential that's being squandered and squalor. Even if you're looking from this from a utilitarian argument, you're wasting resources. You're wasting your most precious resource. Beyond wasting your most precious resource, you also have this thing of you're going to end your life in the way that you're behaving. In my particular model of the world, is sustainable. Meaning it does not fuck over ecology. It does not fuck over social things that people need. It looks at the human being, say, hey, what do you need to be a real thing? And once you give that person those needs, I guarantee you your society will change. Your society will change. Squalor and everything that you have in your society now, these vagaries of humanity, the way that people behave, you have these guys are fucking terrorists chopping off heads. The United States is murdering civilians. This is a terrifying globe. This is a terrifying world. The idea that I'm driving home today, and there's a guy who felt so strongly about something that he put up a Confederate flag. That's amazing. And you see it and you're like, what drives an individual to feel the need to do that? Now, I know they have some feelings about what it means. I'm in the heart of Dixon in Richmond, Virginia. Well, Chesterfield, but still Richmond. But the bare bones of it is a band of rebels, terrorists, tried to take over the United States government because these white men believed that they were losing the right of protecting their slaves and owning slaves. They wanted to own another human being. And because they feel like they lost that right, how dare the U.S. government? The government is on my back, keeping me from owning slaves. We're going to revolt. We're going to take the North. They used to call it what, the war, the Northern aggression or some stupid shit like that. They're a band of rebels. They're a band of terrorists. Call it what it is. But that guy has symbolism associated with it. So him putting it up has certain meanings to him. What are those meanings? And why at this very moment did that guy feel like he needed to put that up? I have no clue. Now, but I have to ask the question, why? It wasn't there yesterday. It's there today. Something drove him. Something drove that behavior. Something said, I need to do this. I'm curious on what made him say, I need to do this. The point I'm getting at, this is a terrifying world. The idea that the guy will put that sign up has certain symbolism to it that is absolutely terrifying. We consider it normal. We consider this aberrant behavior normal. And nobody asks the question, why is all this fucking aberrant behavior? Why are people behaving this way? They're driven by certain incentives. The model itself, how we've arranged ourselves, is built with certain incentives. Those incentives drive certain behavior. It's not that the human being is just broken and corrupt. No, but that human being can be broken and corrupt. It can also be other things. But even if we want, and one last argument, your model of the world is killing itself. It's eating itself. Even from a social standpoint, your model is eating itself. As automation and more technology come on, those things are going to become more people needing work, more people needing jobs. Your model kills itself. My model of the world does not. I can make arguments based on moral grounds, based on utilitarian grounds, all these different things. It just depends on the position. But ultimately, that position is humanism. That's where I start. Sorry, that's a completely rant that may have nothing to absolutely do with what we were talking about. Come on. If corporate decided, Uncle Joe, if corporate decided a future single-payer system with a shitload of checks and balances, nooks with million-dollar hospital CEOs whose main job is fundraising in P3s. You're right. That's why, if you notice, for the moment, I hesitated on saying single-payer. But certainly, Joe, you know, single-payer is a fuckload better of what we have now in this country, right? Even if that guy's settling that, I guarantee you it's still cheaper than the Canadian healthcare system by loads. By loads. So I feel you. Nothing will change until decision-making power is in the hands of ordinary through direct democracy and no longer restricted for the power of the few elites representatives. Lisa Heaton. No, it doesn't have to be that way. Because, look, if we're being honest, let's look at the behavior of people. A lot of people don't care. They don't want to be bothered by this shit. Giving them direct democracy. To what end? They don't look at information. They don't know shit about what's going on. Choices are they going to be making? It's not the model, man. It's the person. It's a certain level of the way the society is arranged. Like, you can have whatever government you want. Doesn't matter what it is. You can have whatever government you want. You just have to deal with the consequences of the incentives in that particular government. In our particular system, if the public was engaged in the system, you don't need a direct democracy in that case. The problem with, I would argue the thing with direct democracy, you have 350 million people in this country. I don't know how that works. I just don't know how it works. I don't have a conception in my head of it. You people paying attention. Even if you're in a direct democracy, you can see how people just checked out of the process. I got shit to do. Game of Thrones is about to come on. I don't have time to vote on no bills. Like, I can imagine all these situations where people are blowing it off and you have fewer and fewer people making the choice. You're making an assumption that people want to be involved in the political process. I am making the assumption they do not. They do not. Act like adults. Figure the shit out. I have my life to live. That's what I think politics is. The level of hurt that's weighed down on the individuals at the bottom eventually gets them to pay attention to the process. But until then, I have my life to lead. Just do it. I think direct democracy will run counter to that. You just need a different populace, a different public. And to some degree, you can't necessarily blame somebody for just saying, look, I just want to live my life. I don't want to be involved with this stuff. I don't want to have to look this much at the news and pay this attention. I have my things to do. They choose that other things are important. I find this maddening. But it's what they choose. We all have to accept the consequences to some degree, however, for what they choose. But I don't know how you get that guy to pay attention. I just don't. I have no fucking clue. If I had the magic bullet, if somebody else had the magic bullet, you wouldn't be losing 49% of the population who's voting. Data de Lord de Terra. Data Lord de la Terra. What a vague, abstract bullshit example. Cybernetics allows direct democracies to use your software engineering chops. Oh man, you're going too far to the left of me, dude. I wasn't going to put in the chip in people's head. I was going to put the chip in people's head. The question becomes, here's the question. Oh man, this is getting out of healthcare. A new device came on the market. A new device. You could put that device into your temple, and you would have access to all of your digital information on file at the tap. Just thinking about it. You can make cell phone calls. Just thinking about it. Would you do it? Would you use it? Lisa Heaton, I am to some degree arguing against democracy. Yes, you're right. To some degree, I am. I'm just making this point that how you arrange a government at that point, particularly when you have huge numbers of people, I just imagine that's going to be a difficult prospect. I'm saying, yeah, I am. To some degree, I guess I am. I guess I am. My brother never checked. I know Kung Fu Neo. And come on, are you telling me that if that device came up, that you would, like, I have to be honest, I don't think I would use it because I don't want anything fucking with my head like that. But you understand that the moment that takes place, society changes. You have a different world. Overnight, different world. You're going to have some people who use it. You're going to have some people that don't. The people who use it are going to have an advantage over the people who don't. At some point, are there going to be jobs that say, hey, if you're not using it, you can't. We don't want you. We want you to have access to this digital net world on a tap. We want you to be able to retrieve information and memories and all these other things on a tap faster than normal. Your society changes overnight. I think it's a fascinating question. That's the only reason I asked it. Nicholas Reynolds. I think we need to itemize the entire healthcare plan to ensure that it can't be defeated in Congress. If we clearly show it's possible, the arguments right now is not feasible. I feel you, but we're having this conversation over two really shitty healthcare plans. We have a socialist fighting for a right-wing healthcare plan. I don't want people having this idea that Obamacare is somehow some kind of actual universal healthcare plan. It's not. It wasn't. King Obama telling everybody that they should get healthcare is not the same thing as getting people healthcare. And you still have millions of people who don't have healthcare. What's the goal? Is the point healthcare, or is the point to dick around? The other two plans are dicking around. I'm making this point that Medicare for all covers all of this shit. It goes away. If you would have did that in the beginning, they wouldn't have been able to hit him in Congress. I mean, hit him in court. And you had this big debacle. Oh my God, did they kill it? Did they kill it? Did they murder that right-wing healthcare plan in its crib? That would have went away. Medicare for all is perfectly legal, and it would have gotten those leeches out of the system itself. Allow Medicare to negotiate for drug care prices. You can do healthcare. You can do healthcare. That's not what he did. Let's be honest. My mom is having this conversation with me, and she's like, well, I mean, you could keep people on your plan. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. That's not healthcare. It's the point healthcare is the point to dick around. I make the point that if you're going to do healthcare. Put an American twist on it. I don't care. But make sure everybody is covered. I make the case, Medicare for all, make sure everyone is covered. And it's a hell of a lot cheaper than what we currently have. These guys are dicking around. You understand that in any functioning governing system, any halfway decent functioning governing system, if the question of healthcare came up, they would have actually tried to provide healthcare for the people of their state, of their country. What the fuck are these people doing? And honestly, whether you're Trump or whoever you're for, whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, are you telling me that Obamacare is healthcare, and are you telling me that Trumpcare is healthcare? Is that what you're telling me? Be honest. And the reason I'm saying be honest, because people have these idols of, oh my God, I love Trump. So whatever Trump does. Oh my God, I'm a Republican. So whatever a Republican does. I want tribalism. I'm going to have a certain degree of tribalism. I'm just going to follow this particular flag. I'm saying, use your common sense. Use your common sense. Whatever your view of reality, use your common sense from a logical approach. If the goal of healthcare is healthcare, and if the goal of these guys is to cover as many people as possible for the cheapest prices possible, for the best possible care, do you honestly believe that Obamacare or Trumpcare, both of which were drafted in the shadows, both of which are there for purely for political reasons? Trumpcare is there because Trump said he was going to kill Obamacare. It has nothing to do with healthcare. I'm sorry, it doesn't. You have a few senators apparently who are terrified of signing the bill because they understand that it's going to hurt people and those people are going to vote their ass out. I hope they sign it. Sign your name, put your face on it, and be there with Trump when he's defending it. That's what I want to take place. I want it to hurt. People need to pay attention to the political process. You have kids with the United States. The citizens are allowed to be this dense and this in the dark purely because you have a country that can murder other people in other countries. That's it. That's the only reason. Any other country would have to pay attention to the factors that are external to that particular country, meaning the citizenry would have to know what the fuck their government is doing abroad because those bombs could hit their country. You've been insulated to some degree because 1% of the country is in the military. That 1% gets sent out to murder people here. So you don't pay attention to those things. Those things are blissfully, they don't exist. So you can have a Democratic president out there murdering civilians. You can have a Republican president murdering civilians. You can have a Republican president that murders 1 million people. And the population in this country still go on and eat their Cheerios and go about their way. The bombs haven't fell here. Because the bombs haven't fell here, and because these people in this particular country have this idea of, well, my life persists the way it is. I don't have to worry about that stuff. That stuff takes care of itself. Bombs are not going to fall here. So what the fuck do I care? Hey, you realize your country is killing people abroad. Are bombs falling here? No. I'm eating my Cheerios. That's our world. That's our country. And I'm making a point, if you had a country that wasn't that way, that was somewhat vulnerable in some way, the populace would have to pay attention to what the fuck the government is doing. Or at the very least, if you were one of those countries that had something actually hit that country, where that country was in a war that was in their recent memory, they have memory of bombs falling in that particular country. Yes, those people are going to pay more fucking attention to politics. Not here. Not here. They eat their Cheerios. They go about their way. They don't pay attention to what takes place in Washington, meaning, yes, those guys can murder people abroad because the people in the country don't pay attention to what takes place. The irony is, they will get hurt with Trumpcare. Those people may look up and say, holy shit, look at what they're doing in this country. They're not going to give a shit abroad, but at the very least, they'll give a shit about Aunt May that's getting hit with all these medical bills, or Bob, who didn't go to the hospital because Bob was scared of getting a bill. That's a sick commentary on this particular country, but that is our country. I'm sorry. And you know it's true. Not a socialist, not anything. Oh, Nicholas Reynolds. I'm sorry. You're right. I misunderstood. I think you misunderstood me. I was speaking universal health care that Bernie Sanders is trying to push in Congress. That's just it. I don't care about, I care about specifics, but of course, but the only thing I want is something basic. Let the person be first. Let the person be the point. That's what I want. That seems like such a mind-blowing fucking idea when you're talking about healthcare, but hey, what if we say, what does a person need in this process for the shit to work right? That has nothing to do with the process. It's all politics. Donald Trump said, I'm going to murder Obamacare. I'm going to choke the shit out of Obamacare. I'm going to beat the shit out of Obamacare. He said it every day. He screamed it into every mic he could find. And he gets in office, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to have to beat the shit out of Obamacare. So that's what he's going to do. And he's going to be on Twitter every day. Obamacare is failing. Obamacare is failing. Obamacare is failing. That's what he's going to do. He won the presidency. He has complete and absolute control of the political apparatus to a degree. To a degree. He earned it. Now, the question becomes, are Democrats going to lay around and bleed about it or cry about it? Are they going to do something about it? What are progressives going to do? What is everybody else going to do? I say let the shit pass. Let them own it. Wear it. Wear it as an albatross. And everybody scream at the top of their lungs for every failure that takes place and every person that's hurt. That is your ticket in, believe it or not. If you're a progressive and you wanted to get in, that's your ticket. Single payer. Scream it. Attack both parties. Obamacare was failing. Obama gave it to you. Trumpcare is going to massively hurt people. Donald Trump and the Republican Party gave it to you. Single payer. Scream it. That's what I would do. Amen. Yeah, Debbie's intense on that point. The same progressive says Bernie's pushing BS Russian hacking narrative, which could lead us into World War III. Because he's the one honest man. That's why. Colin Powell. Think of Colin Powell goes down. Everybody else, no one else has integrity in the Bush administration. They're considered to be fucking liars. One honest man. Colin Powell. The one honest man, the soldier. The guy who everybody trusts. Colin Powell had like an 80% approval rating at that point, if I'm not mistaken. It was wrongly judged as being honest and earnest. He goes to the UN and he presents the evidence of Saddam Hussein having weapons of mass destruction at the United States. Colin Powell did not know what the fuck he was talking about. He did not know what he was talking about. He was used and discarded and roundly embarrassed by what took place. The question becomes, is Bernie Sanders functioning as a Colin Powell in this particular episode, in this particular thing? There's a conflict here, believe it or not. There's a conflict, and I understand it's conflict. At least, who the fuck understands who? I'm saying I can see a narrative that could take place, that could explain it, but I don't know if it will give him any more credence. But we said, I think Donald Trump is dangerous. I honestly do. I am not on that bandwagon and think he's some kind of chow with an F arm. I think he's a chow with laser weapons. So I'm saying that hyperbolically, but yes, I think he's a disaster. I think he's terrifying. And I think the power that's been accrued in the presidency is astonishing. It is astonishing. One plank after another was added to that particular role in that presidency. That is a powerful imperialist presidency. So yes, I'm terrified what he could do in that particular role and with that particular office. That being said, I also try to be honest when I do this, meaning the Democrats are full of it. They're full of it. They're screaming Russia at the top of their lungs because they don't want to talk about what took place in the primaries, and they don't want to talk about what the fuck is wrong with their party. That's what's taking place. So if I'm looking at this situation and I say, that guy's a fucking disaster and that guy's terrifying, but this particular party is lying through their teeth, I also have to ask, well, wait a minute, why is the Democratic Party lying through their teeth? Is there another reason? Yes, there is another reason. Because that guy's fucking terrifying. He's a disaster. And they're using the only thing they have, the only feather in their quiver, Russia, to hang on. We're going to scream fire, and we're going to hope the American public pay attention to this. That's what I think is taking place. So it's this conflict in doing the story and even talking about it, where it's like, yes, the guy's a disaster. The Democratic Party is essentially using Russia to tie him up in knots. And to some degree, it worked. They have a special prosecutor. They have somebody who's going to continue this kind of investigation of sorts, where they can pry over and over and over, that type of thing. They can keep the story going. But that's not going to work forever. But I think that's what's taking place. So I think, yes, Bernie Sanders is engaging in that particular behavior because he may be going down the same path of, this guy's a disaster. I need to stick with these guys to do this. Whether he believes it or not, I don't know. It's a moot point. That's the narrative that he's taken. Now, however you see him and taking that narrative is purely on you. That's the way I see it taking place. If he believes it, is there any difference from those two things? No, I think those two things are exactly the same. The difference is your perspective on him is the thing that matters. If it was me, if I was in that position, would I do it? Oh man, it would be a different responsibility. Your responsibility as a politician is different than your responsibility as somebody who's reporting the news or reporting the information. So I don't know. If I'm judging him from his own position, then my judgment is less harsh. If I look at him from this position, yes, my judgment is more harsh. Just depends on how I look at him. In a sense of starting a war with Russia, yeah, that's a problem. I honestly, that's the thing that scares the shit out of me the most. Trump is edging closer and closer to doing things that will put us in conflict with Russia. But that's not the Democrats at this point. That's him. He's in a foreign country doing things, pushing the envelope. You understand that if that conflict kicks off, that's a nuclear war. Russia's not going to have a ground war with us. There's no point. They're going to hit our interests, and those bombs are going to land here. The picture of Bob in the background, that's just my background. There's no special order to that. It's a creepy fucking background that I love. Liz H. If you don't have help, you don't have the upward mobility in this country. People can't pull themselves up anymore, and this causes depression, and a hopeless segment of society will never get ahead. Yes, but that's you must understand that the point is not to help. You're looking at the world through a particular lens. My like I would have this conversation with my mom, and you know, when you're dealing with really nice people, like people who are not that way. Like most people, I honestly do believe most people are good, decent people. They want the same things as I want this, I want that for my family. I want my family to have a decent life, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And trying to get those things, where those people have decent lives and everything else, I would imagine it's like, what do you do to make ends meet, to get those things? Now you have a drive. I need to deal with scarcity for myself. I need to deal with scarcity for my family. And I need to do the things necessary in order to keep my family going. And you build your life in that particular way. Everybody does. Now, let's say you're just a decent salt of the earth person that's nice as can be. And your perspective is, well, people should have health care. It's the most natural thing in the world. And you will be baffled to realize that the things that they're doing are not really getting people health care. I don't understand why those people are doing those things. You make another assumption. Well, Johnny, the politician, seems perfectly nice when he shook my hand at the rally. When I saw him on TV, he said such nice things. Maybe they're doing the right thing, and maybe this is all they could do. They have no conception that money runs this process. They have no conception. When you think of this idea of upward mobility and everything else, those things don't apply. Lower my taxes. Lower my taxes. I don't give a shit about these people. Lower my taxes. That's what it boils down to. In FDR's time, you had socialists, you had leftists, you had people that were on FDR's ass. That FDR thought, after the Great Depression, they were going to destroy capitalism. That's what he thought. They were going to destroy capitalism. He says, my greatest thing is that I saved capitalism. How did he save capitalism? Getting money to the people at the bottom so that country, so capitalism can keep going. The economic system can tick on. Capitalism requires money in the bottom. Otherwise, there's nothing to buy the products or anything else from the people at the top. the system collapses. The problem is you have a system of maximized profit that is going to pull itself into the political space just by virtue of the state being such an instrument. You have people in office. Those people require money to get elected. In order to get money to get elected, they take that money from certain sources. Certain of those sources, particularly when you have to big ticket sources, have two effects. I can give you this money, or I can give your opponent this money. Make your choice. Money floods the political process. If you have money flooding the political process and you know that you're getting money from a particular source, which way are you going to lean? Those people, those salt of the earth people, they take your smile and they go with it. They culturally are voting a particular way. If you're Democratic Party, if Republican, it's the Republican Party. Tribalism at work. What do? The political process makes sense in that way, in that context, because yes, that's how political process. You can look at it. Which way do these things land? Do you honestly believe that Trumpcare and Obamacare settles the thing of healthcare in this country? If not, why? Why does Chuck Schumer need to come out with a bold, new, sharp-edged strategy with a common-sense economic message? Why? Why didn't you have the economic message before? Why, Chuck? Why did you stop at that particular point and think that this was what the Democratic Party should represent? That's the question that I have. Somebody asked Chuck Schumer that question. Someone asked Chuck Schumer that question for me. Someone in the ether. If anybody get their hands on Chuck Schumer, whisper that question in his ear. I want to see the answer to that question. All I'm saying is, the point is not social upward mobility. They don't give a shit about that. That's not the point. That is the point, that it should be in a society. Your society should be based around people. Yes, that's not us. That's not us. Uncle Joe, all volunteer force guarantees military drawn from the poor. Agree, though places with mandatory military services still have dynasties. That's interesting. That's interesting. And that's where the rubber meets the road on that one. Should they force you into military service? I want to say fuck no to that. Fuck no to that. I agree with you, Uncle Joe. The volunteer service, you have 1% of the military. Literally, 1% of this country is in military. That volunteer service allows for the military to do things without ever adversely affecting the people or the public, meaning you can eat your Cheerios. Your kid is not going to be drawn from any kind of pool or anything else. But it's the interesting question of, wait a minute, if we're using our military, shouldn't that military come from the actual public? Shouldn't it hurt? If we're going to call people and say, we need you to die for our country, shouldn't it hurt? That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that one. How Putin talks. How Putin talks. So how do we go forward with putting trust in candidates? For instance, Elizabeth Warren, she was against universal health care a while ago, but recently is supporting it. Can we trust her? I don't support anything in the Democratic Party. They said we will lie, we want to lie. They're having this conversation when they're out of power. They had absolute power of the political apparatus, and they gave us a right-wing healthcare plan. I don't trust anything that comes out of their mouth. I want them out of their seats. All of them. Oh, man. No comment on Elizabeth Warren. No comment. I'm sorry, no comment. No comment. She is a mixed bag to me. There are times when Elizabeth Warren is going after the banks, you can see a light in her eyes. She loves it. She feels it. That is her thing. That gets her up in the morning. Everything else, I don't see it. I just don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it. There's a certain amount of, there's a thing that progressives have. It's I don't want to call it moral indignation. It's not that. But it's when you see something, it gets you. It does something to you. And I don't see that in Elizabeth Warren when I see things come up like Standing Rock. It's like, these people are getting fucking taken down by military equipment. I mean, literally, you had dogs biting these guys. Police were bashing their heads. Elizabeth Warren didn't say squat. That seems like a big fucking deal to me. I'm sorry, it did. So her not saying anything is somewhat of a big fucking deal to me. A lot of this stuff is her interview with Cenk Uygur. I did an analysis of it. It's a very long analysis, but I did an analysis of it. Yeah, there's a problem. There's a lot of problems in the things that she says. I'm deferring judgment on Elizabeth Warren. Taken as a whole comes across as incoherent. Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you don't understand what I'm saying, yeah, I guess it would. That's factual. Yeah, I can agree. U.S. ranking has dropped 114 on Global Peace Index due to organized internal conflict and level of perceived criminality. Yes, that's true. I would agree. I mean, these guys are literally taking bribes in order to do things in government and regulatory thing. We don't have a political apparatus that works. Why I get annoyed at the facade of it. It's like, why are we even pretending that we have a political apparatus that works? Why this facade? Why does the news organizations pretend as if we have a thing? It's like all these guys are attending a show of some sorts. How cat's the funny. Cat's the funny. The Liz H. Elizabeth Warren is a good politician. She's smart, but she has surrounded herself with morons. I agree. Who is your power base? Who is your power base? Like, nobody gets to anywhere by themselves. It just doesn't happen. You as a person, it's just weak, feckless thing. You're nothing. However, when you have a lot of people supporting you, well, that's a little bit different. Who are the people supporting you? Who is your power base? If you're Bernie Sanders, your power base is the public. You have millions and millions and millions of people who are willing to go to war for you. If you're Hillary Clinton, not so much. Your power base is the people who are putting money in your pocket. A different power base, $1 billion. Burning on the White House lawn. They're $1 billion. $1 billion. Think about that. You can raise I'm sorry, this is an absolute detour, but this blows my mind. You can raise $1 billion to run a presidential campaign and lose. That's like money burning on the White House lawn. To lose. Oh, that blows my mind. That's so much money. The number of people you could have fed with that is amazing. All right, fair enough. Fuck, I forgot what I was talking about. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's my bad. I'm sorry. Oh, Elizabeth Warren. Even if you wanted to fake it, your power base is the same power base as Bernie Sanders. The thing is, you're talking about banks. If you're talking about banks, for the most part, you are talking in Bernie Sanders' wheelhouse. Go all the way. You should have went all the way. Meaning, yes, you're going to lose whatever funders you believe you have, but you are gaining onto a power source. You should, even if you don't believe it, you should have faked it the entire way. You should have faked it. You should have came out with Bernie Sanders, with Standing Rock and everything else, even if you didn't do anything about it. It's not the point. You get out and say something about it. You can say the same things as Sanders says, even if you're faking it. Your power base, it would essentially be the same power base as his. Whoever is giving her advice, yes, you're right, they're fucking morons. And Democrats surround themselves with a certain cohort of people who are seen as smart, but all suffer from groupthink. Spartan Guard 18. Yeah, is it fair to say that any edifice does the same thing? Like, think of any institution. For the most part, it does that. They accrue around certain thoughts and beliefs. In software, same thing. This particular system is awesome. This particular new thing is great. This particular new thing. Now, you might have 20 new things out there that's doing the exact same thing. They accrue around a particular thing. And then that becomes somewhat of a standard in and of itself. Yeah, politics is no different. These seem to be a person thing. How do we go about overcoming the idea that people have that voting is a waste of time and won't get politically involved? Even with the 2016 election, we saw only half of the country vote at best. Yeah, you're right. This is Nicholas Reynolds. I don't know, man. My idea on this. Here's the thing. You rot your political apparatus. You let it, for the most part, you let it rot to some degree. When people stop being engaged in the process and they look at it and says, this is a waste of time. These guys are for the most part doing the exact same thing. It's status quo, regardless of what takes place and who I vote for, and they all lie to me. You rot your political apparatus. You get less and less people voting because those people get disillusioned with the process. Now, the thing with Sanders is he was different, and he was somewhat of a lightning rod. Obama was to some degree the same way when he first ran in 2008. It's like, holy shit, this guy is saying that he is hope and change. Oh, I've never heard anybody tell me that he was actually hope and change. And then you have this problem. How do you deliver on hope and change? You better be fucking fantastic. And he was not. He was not. He was the opposite of hope and change. He was status quo 101, even going so far as murdering civilians. What happens to the public when you tell them I'm hope and change and you don't give them that hope and change? Political apparatus. Sanders, look, I know, dog, he is a sheepdog. Just by definition, he's a sheepdog. But I don't have this image of him that some people have of him as being this. I don't like what he's doing, but I don't have an image of him as being an evil actor. My image of him as being a decent man trying to find his way in a political process. And I know somebody's going to say, oh, dude, yeah, man, you're seeing Sanders wrong. That may be true. I could be completely wrong. You could be completely wrong. This is just my view of it. It's like there's a maniac in. We've lost all power. This is the fastest train running. I'm going with the fastest train running. That's my view of him. That's my view of him. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. Sanders could be the opposite of that. He could just be this total craven sheepdog. That may be true. That may be true. But I try to think to myself, what would I do if I was in a position? And would I do stuff like that in order to, A, stay relevant in one sense? Meaning I'm still in the political process. Everybody still sees me. Everywhere I go, I'm goddamn Bernie Sanders. You're going to have a camera on me. You're going to give me a microphone. But also, if I thought, that guy's a maniac, what am I going to do? Would I follow him with the same narrative? I don't know. Maybe. And the fact that I don't know and the fact that I have to say maybe forces me to give him a certain amount I don't, there's not even a word for it. Maybe leeway is the word for it, but it's not really leeway. It's just like, oh, God damn it, dude. I hate what you're fucking doing. But to some degree, I may understand at a really painful level that the responsibilities of a politician is different than the responsibilities of me doing what I'm doing right now. Yeah, take it for what it's worth. How do you get people involved in the process? Things get bad enough where it hurts. Things get bad enough where it hurts. The light goes out of their eyes when you talk to them about politics. It just does. My idea is summits. You try to pull people in the process look at every union, every organization that you can find that's far right, far left. Grab those people, pull those people in. Fight for 15. Find the people who are there with Fight for 15. Get those people associated with unions or with the unions themselves. They don't even have to be a part of the unions. You're just, at that point, just collaborating. Find the people who are associated with freaking out at these rallies. I mean, they're all happening all over the United States. Get those people, write those people's names down. Those people don't need to march anywhere. Get those people in a room together. I would find each and every person who's to the left, who's a leftist, who's a far to right, who's a libertarian, get all those people in a room together. You have half the country in poverty. Get every McDonald's worker, Wendy's worker, every person who's working at Old Navy, every person who's working at Walmart, and get those people in a room together. Now, I don't know the edifice to do that. I don't know what the Green Party does at that point. Pull those people in too. I'm saying you're trying to create a web throughout the entire state country. I would argue even make a people's party. Meaning, you're not necessarily making a party right off the bat. What you're doing is getting summits together where people would, at the very least, come together and have conversations about politics and what they want. And make a determination on what are we willing to vote for as a united country. That's a people's party. That's a revolution. That's done in each state. Hell, that may be done in districts, but I would say it's a summit. Each place after place after place after place. And have those places join hands and saying, this is the very bare minimum that we want as a society. I don't know how you do that, but you have all these groups all over the country. I don't understand why these groups aren't talking. That's all. I don't know how to do those things. I'm just making the point that at some point those things were done. Why aren't those things still being done? Oh, wow. That's a lot of these. Luca Clemente, Sanders put Medicare for all on the table, but before no one was taken seriously on the subject. You're right. Again, you're right. That's why when people like attack him on his front, I'm like, do you understand how far you've come in this regard? It's not even something that was even discussed. Could you hit that button for me? Thank you. Single payer wasn't even being discussed. Wasn't even being discussed. Right now, single payer is the thing that's on the table.